A sharp pain in her thigh woke her. She sucked in a breath. She reached to grasp her wound. A mature female's voice sounded from behind her. "You no touch the wound. It needs stay clean." She let go of her leg, then laid her head back on a thick, wool-stuffed blanket beneath her. She lay inside a tent, large enough for one person to move around comfortably. Flickering lanterns were scattered across the golden grass. Their light gave the space a calm ambiance. The smell of spices filled the air, cinnamon, mint, and ginger. The cool, crisp night air refreshed her. She heard metal clanking behind her, dishes from a tea maker, she assumed from the smells. A tall, slim figure entered her sight. She gasped as she studied the feminine figure who sat down, cross-legged next to her. Was she dreaming? It was a Fel. She'd heard stories about them from her tutors. She studied sketches portraying them as a youth. The animoid races fascinated her. This Fel resembled a panther. She was dressed in light brown travel garb. A hood covered her head. She gazed into the Fel's eyes. She wasn't sure if it would work, but it was worth a try. Fels were animals, in some measure. She watched as the Fel pushed her hood back. Her panther ears moved forward. Her bright golden cat eyes dilated from a slim oval. Her golden eyes turned black. The Fel was now powerless to refuse almost any request she asked. She needed the Fel's help to get back to Tarathorn. The Fel's dilated eyes shrunk back to a thin oval. The tent flap flew open. A white, reptilian being with large, pointy ears peeked in. The sight of it startled her. It studied her with its red, snake-like eyes. "Out! Out!" The Fel scolded it with a hiss. "Elf need rest. You be scaring her!" The creature let out a high-pitched laugh. It stuck out its pointy black tongue as it eyed her curiously. The Fel growled at it. Then it left. "No, pay attention to him." The Fel shifted her legs back to a tight crisscross. "He be crazy." What was that? His kind be called Goblin. Harmless he be. His name be Shemet. Harmless. Just crazy. Livien relaxed, then turned her focus back to the Fel. "What's your name?" The sound of a whistle, formed by steam, caused the Fel to stand. She listened as the Fel worked behind her. The whistle faded to the sound of pouring liquid. She heard the Fel whisper, "Nice." Then she walked back around with a small bowl in her hand. She sat back down. "My name be Rhoda." She held up a wooden bowl. "Drink." Rhoda helped her sit up. She took the bowl, then sipped the hot liquid. The milk was warm, sweet, and a bit spicy. She welcomed the warmth of it on her dry, sore throat. She sipped until it was gone. Rhoda took the bowl. Good. Warmth rushed through Livien's body. She yawned. Within moments, her eyes grew heavy. Rhoda helped her lay back down. She heard voices outside the tent. Could the man who rescued her be out there? She wanted to thank him before she left. Knowing she was about to pass out, she turned her focus to Rhoda. She struggled through slurred speech. "My name is Livien. Livien Adela," she said as she fought for her eyes to remain open. "I need you to help me get back to Tarathorn, to the Wyvern Academy." Rhoda's pupils dilated. She was naked when she woke. Muffled voices ushered Livien from the darkness. Her brain pounded against her skull. She grabbed her head with a moan, then rubbed her heavy eyes. Her hair draped down around her shoulders. With blurred vision, She noticed multiple stitched-up wounds across her right arm. The pain in her leg made those wounds unnoticeable. She held the blanket to her chest, then slowly sat up. Her wounded leg sent a surge of pain through her body in protest. She cried out. She struggled to breathe the hot, stagnant air around her. Where am I? The tent flap opened. Bright light from outside invaded her vision. The light magnified the throbbing pain in her skull. She grabbed her head with a moan. She heard metal clanking behind her. It echoed loudly in her head. Then she remembered everything. Rhoda sat on the ground next to her. Her voice echoed in her ears. Drink. It helps clear your head. Livien grabbed the bowl. She gulped the lukewarm liquid. It tasted sour. She accepted a flask of cool water from Rhoda, then washed out the aftertaste. I cleaned and closed the wounds, Rhoda said as she put the bowl aside. You lost much blood. You must come out to eat. Livien handed the flask back to Rhoda. Rhoda gave her a suspicious gaze. Why you be alone, traveling these plains? Livien shifted. I can't remember. You no more rest. We be leaving soon. Rhoda stood up. She grabbed a sack nearby. She pulled out pieces of garments. She studied each piece before she tossed it to Livien's lap. A pair of brown pants, then a white shirt. Rhoda glanced at her. Yours be destroyed by the shadow wolves, she said. You wear mine. As Rhoda left her, she struggled to stand. She was determined to get back on her feet. She ignored the pain. She learned long ago to fight through pain. Her mother never let her have a day off. The clothes fit a size larger. The pants fell to her hips. She ran her fingers through her hair. The hot air was suffocating. She knew she looked like a mess. She hoped she didn't smell horrible. At least the fell was nice enough to clean the blood off her. Still, she'd have to find a bathhouse right away when she reached the academy. She limped outside, then squinted her eyes against the brightness. She breathed in as a small breeze caressed her, then used her sleeve to wipe the sweat from her face. Other tents stood about the small plot, surrounded by rolling hills of golden grass. A dapple grey stallion grazed nearby. A giant rat caught a large beetle in midair, then ate it whole. A harnessed dire wolf lounged in the grass as a large boar devoured a pile of bloody guts nearby. 6 figures lounged around a dead fire pit. She limped her way toward them. One of them jogged to her. She recognized the dark, muscular figure and leather chest guard. His dark brown skin glistened. His black hair, gathered in a tail of many braids, bounced on his back as he jogged. A black beard blanketed his face. It was a round-eared man, a high Vatroxian. He took her arm to assist her. She was tall enough to look straight into his dark, brown eyes. "Let me help you," he said. Livien took his arm. She ignored the invasion of his eyes as they gazed down at her chest. The thin shirt didn't hide much. She could feel her cheeks flush. "Thank you for saving my life last night." Theo forced his eyes away from her bosom to land them upon her smile. He gave her a boyish smirk with vivacity in his eyes. "You're lucky I run fast." He assisted her slowly toward the fire pit. "My name's Theophilus. My friends call me Theo." "You can call me Liv," Livien managed as she winced at a sudden pain. Theo held her to keep her from tumbling, helped her sit down, then sat down next to her. Livien sighed. "I'll be fine. I'm no stranger to pain." "Rhoda said you got lost," Theo said. I was on my way to the capital of Tarathorn. Then, I can't remember what happened. You shouldn't travel alone. I had no choice. My father's against the Empire. He had other plans for my life. Damn politics, Theo said. Never was into politics or religion. They do nothing but cause division. I feel the same way, but the elders in my country refuse to let go of the old ways. Theo shook his head. A weak mind is easily manipulated. Livien gave him a smile. You've read the Articles of Wisdom? Theo shrugged nonchalantly. Off forced me to memorize them. Off? He's the orc. Don't let him scare you. He's truly a nice guy. He taught me everything I know. The dwarf, however, he can be an ass, but that's just his shell. He's soft on the inside. The goblin's Shemet. He's a bit crazy, but he's just a child. Grimden rescued him as an infant. He was left to die in the wilderness by his tribe. That's awful. Goblins believe albinos are bad luck. So, why is an intelligent, high Vatroxian man camping out among such diversity in the middle the Zudian plains? Theo smirked, then eyed her mischievously. If I tell you, I'll have to keep you. Livien gave him a look of reassurance. I'm good at keeping secrets. Don't tempt me. I think I want to keep you. What in the hells would you do with me? Theo gave her an enticing stare. Well, she said, I wouldn't be able to struggle. Theo smirked. I like you. Livien smiled a small smile. I like you, too. But I must go back to Tarathorn. Unless I decide to keep you. Well, you'll have to tell me your secret first. We're pirates. Rebels against the Empire? We're not against anything. We smuggle shit and try not to get noticed. We're on our way back home for a while. Livien tried to stand. Thank you for your kindness, Theo, but I can't let you keep me. I must go back to Tarathorn. Theo, a bit disappointed, helped her to her feet. If I wasn't a gentleman, I'd force you to keep your side of the bargain. Livien smiled. She wrapped her arm around Theo's large bicep, then continued limping. Well, like I said, I wouldn't be able to struggle. Theo, with a smirk, shook his head. Your trouble? Livien nodded with a small smile. Words I've heard before. We're done with trouble for a while. So, after a while is over, you'll be ready for some trouble. Theo stared into her eyes with his own fiery gaze. I'm always ready for trouble. Livien blushed, then bit her bottom lip. Fuck me bald, boy. The gruff voice from the dwarf interrupted. What's taking you so long? We gotta pack it up shortly. Shemet watched Livien as they approached. He used his sharp teeth to tear meat off a large bone. A shirtless orc with large tattooed arms studied her with his golden eyes. He slid his large knife across a sharpening stone. Another figure sat, huddled in a black robe. Its hooded face was unseen, but its dark fingers spooned stew from a bowl. A dwarf leaned against a log. His red hair, twisted with grey, was braided in pigtails that hung over his shoulders. His long beard blanketed pale skin. He puffed on a wooden pipe. His gaze followed as Theo helped her sit. Rhoda gathered pieces of meat that were dried in the suns, then gave them to her. Theo sat across from her, beside the orc. No one said anything. Rhoda broke the silence. "Eat," she said. "You need strength." Livien ignored the stares. She ate the meat. "Ha!" The orc's sudden exclamation startled her. "Wood elves do eat meat. I told you." "Shit!" The dwarf cursed with a raspy voice. "Fuck me, anus talumus. I was sure they were all vegetarians." She watched the dwarf reach in his pocket. Then he tossed a palm-sized sapphire to the orc, who caught it, kissed it, then put it in a small pouch strapped around his waist. The orc grinned at her, grabbed a bowl from the ground, then sat next to her. Livien shifted her eyes to Rhoda, who didn't seem concerned. The orc grabbed a large, wet, bloody mass from the bowl, then slid it into his palm. He held up the red mass with pride. "The heart of your enemy, the one who tore your flesh." She was confused. Theo put his face in his hands with embarrassment. The Fel took a bite of her meat. Her face held no emotion. She now knew the meat was from the shadow wolves that attacked her. The piece in her hand dropped to the ground. Shemet let out a high-pitched snicker, then gave her a sharp-toothed grin. She looked back at the orc. Pride danced in his eyes. "Eat it," Orf said with a sinister tone, "and have your revenge." He stared at her with expectation. His yellow-stained fangs protruded upward from his lower jaw as he smiled. Blood rushed from Livien's face, then fell to her stomach when she looked down at the bloody heart in his palm. Her hands covered her mouth as she gagged. "Off," she heard Theo's voice. "Let her be." Orf grunted, put his face closer to hers, then lifted the heart to his lips. He stared in her eyes as he put the heart into his mouth. Blood trickled from his lips, then dripped from his chin as he chewed. His hot, rancid breath invaded her nostrils. She vomited. Orf backed away. The dwarf and the goblin laughed. Rhoda assisted her. "Bastard orc!" Rhoda scolded Orf as Livien wiped her mouth on a cloth she gave to her. "What?" Orf was appalled by Rhoda's scolding. The dwarf let out a grunt. "He was just trying to put some spunk in those skinny bones," Grimden said as he pulled out a small sack, took out a pinch of tobacco, then stuffed it in his pipe. "If she's gonna be with us, we'll need to toughen her up." Livien cleared her throat, then straightened her posture. "No," she said. "I must go back to Tarathorn. They're expecting me at the Wyvern Academy." Orf grunted with disappointment. Theo's eyes lit up. "You're a wyvern?" Livien smiled with pride. "Well, not yet. I've just enrolled. I've seen the wyverns compete in the national trials. They were close to making it to the Heledian Championship Series this year." Orf let out a snort. The judges were paid off. Grimden gave Orf a grin. "A win's a win, my friend. Besides, you got the damn jewel back now, so no use being sore about it." Rhoda stood. "I help Liv get home. It not be far. I'll go with them," Theo said. Livien heard the horse snort. The dire wolf made its way to Grimden, then pushed its nose against him. He shooshed the wolf away. The animal seemed nervous about something. Grimden lit his pipe with a match, puffed on it, then blew out a ring of smoke. He rubbed his beard in thought, then shrugged. "Fuck it. Let's get packed up," he said, then stretched as he stood. "We need to make this quick if we're going to help the elf. Get back to Stella, and be back home before the storms. Everyone around her stood. Theo approached her. He held his hand out to help her stand. The ground shook. Theo tumbled to his knees. Shamit laughed his ear-piercing laughter. Livien grabbed onto Theo. He pulled her in closer to hold her against him. She closed her eyes tight. The pain in her leg was no longer at the forefront of her mind. The horses' screams added to the rumbles. The earthquake lasted for seconds, but it felt like several minutes. It stopped. Her heart pounded. Theo loosened his hold. She looked around. Everyone looked nervous, except the wide-eyed goblin. Shemet jumped, as if his jumps might cause the quake to return. Again! Again! The sky brightened to a blinding state. She closed her eyes tight. She buried her face in her hands. All sound ceased. The brightness faded. The wind rushed. Then it vanished. Grimden, what in the hells is happening? She heard Ulf ask the dwarf through his heavy breath. She looked up at Ulf. The orc's muscles flexed in his big arms as he grasped the hilt of his knife. Theo stood, bravely, next to him. The phoenix is risen. Grimden's voice sent chills up Livien's spine. But it's not due for another 10 years, Ulf said, confused. Grimden rubbed his beard thoughtfully. Something's not right. The Ra Milaki, Rhoda said with a sudden realization. Rhoda, the mysterious robed figure, and Shemet looked to the horizon. She heard it also, the call of birds, thousands of birds. The others didn't hear it, but as the calls grew louder, they turned their eyes to it also. Everyone to your tents, Grimden said. Then he ran. Everyone ran to their tents as a swarm of black birds emerged from the northern horizon. Theo scooped Livien up in his arms, then ran into his own tent. He put her down, sat behind her, then wrapped his arms around her. She welcomed his strong embrace. The tent darkened as raging caws deafened them. The thunder of 1,000 wings rushed around them. She strained to hear something from the birds as they passed, but all she could make out was fear. Would their dark presence ever leave? She took a deep breath, then relaxed as their cries faded. They waited until everything fell silent. They crouched from the tent. Livien emerged just in time to watch the swarm disappear over the forest. Rhoda approached them. The dwarf stepped out of his tent. He stared around as if he expected something else to happen. Shemet ran to Theo, grabbed his leg, then looked up at Livien with a sharp-toothed grin. Theo patted Shemet between his large, pointed ears. The goblin ran to Grimden once he noticed him. Theo sucked in his breath. With wide eyes he fell to his knees. Rhoda and Ulf did the same. Then Livien felt it. A stinging shock slammed into her. It took her breath away. An electric sensation flowed through every nerve in her body. It stiffened her bones. Her body fell, then went into spasms of uncontrollable convulsions. Her vision blurred until she was blind. She heard Theo struggle next to her, then felt his hand clench hers. She found solace in his hold, their fingers entwined. He pulled her into him. The electric flow of her body merged with his. For long moments the powerful sensation flowed from her body, then to Theo's, then back into her again. Then it faded. Theo's heaving chest found its home against her own. He released his embrace from her, then rolled over. Her eyesight progressed back to normal. She wiped her mouth with the hem of her sleeve as something moist gathered in the corners of her lips. She looked at her sleeve. It was blood. She sat up on her knees. The pain in her leg was gone, as if it was never wounded. Theo coughed on his hands and knees. Blood from his mouth painted the golden grass red below him. A high-pitched ring sounded in her ears, then faded after a few seconds. She rubbed her eyes, then saw a dark, feathered hand help Theo to his feet. The mysterious hooded figure stood there, yet his hood no longer covered his head. He was an avian, a hawk man. He looked down at her, then held out his hand. His hooked beak and hawk eyes would have intimidated anyone else. Avians had always been her favorite anemoid race. She took his hand. A hot, tingling sensation flowed from her palm, then out through her fingers. The hawk avian stiffened, then tumbled. The fall forced her grip from his. Theo rushed to the avian's body, then crouched down. He shook the avian. "Zotex?" The hawkman's dark, wide eyes were lifeless. His beak was cracked open. Rhoda arrived to inspect him. She put her rounded ear against his chest, studied his eyes, then put 2 furry fingers against his neck. She closed her eyes to concentrate, and remained there for a few moments. Ulf and Shemet arrived. Rhoda stood solemnly. "He be dead," she said. They looked at one another sadly. Grimden squeezed his way into the circle. "What the fuck happened?" Rhoda gave him a worried look. "Zotex be dead." Color left the dwarves' cheeks. "Shit me to shingles! How the fuck did that happen?" "I took his hand, then he just—" Livien couldn't finish the rest. Grimden lowered his brows. Everyone's eyes shifted to her. Grimden's countenance darkened. "Nobody go near the elf," he said. Everyone stepped back. They looked at each other with confusion. Rhoda put her hand on her hip. "She be nothing to do with Zotex's death." Grimden studied Livien with speculation. "I'm sure she didn't intentionally." Theo looked confused. "What are you talking about?" Grimden's low, eerie tone pricked Livien's soul. "She's a Diablo," he said. Shemet moved closer to her. He looked at her with his sharp-toothed grin. "I like." "We need to be careful around each other." Grimden pointed at Livien. "Especially that one. If she's what I think she is, we'll need to be rid of her." Shemet's smile dissipated. He looked up at Grimden with wide eyes. "Me keep?" "No, Shemet." Grimden's voice was harsh. Shemet held his head down in disappointment. Livien covered her face. Her stomach turned. Grimden glared at Livien, then eyeballed his comrades. He pulled Rhoda away as the fell started to go near her. Livien couldn't catch her breath as the urge to cry crept into her throat. She gazed at the avian's lifeless body in front of her, then looked at her hands. Could it be true? Could she be a Diablo? "Why did the phoenix rise early?" Ulf asked. "There's something strange going on." "The Ra Malarkey," Rhoda said. "I told you." "Now isn't the time to have that conversation." Grimden peered at Rhoda with warning. "One thing's certain," Ulf said. "Every city in Heled will be in chaos now." Theo's eyes turned doubtful. "Which means an increase in city guard patrol." Grimden smiled. "Distracted guards from the chaos in the streets. We could take advantage of it and make up for our losses," Ulf added. Rhoda gazed at Grimden. "A Diablo be nice addition to the crew." Shemet jumped. "Yes, yes." Grimden rubbed his beard in thought, then shook his head. "Not a good idea," he said. She's too deadly, and if she were to be discovered, it'd place a bigger fucking target on our backs. Time's limited if we're to take advantage of the chaos. They'll be having everybody in quarantine soon. Orf nodded. Let's go, then. What are we waiting for? All eyes gazed at Livien. We not know, Sheba Diablo. Rhoda shifted her stance. Xotex be dead for any reason. The ether kill many when the phoenix rise. Grimden grunted. Mostly the very young and the very old. Well, I know how we can find out once and for all. Follow me. Grimden led them to the forest. Livien approached a lone birch tree. She hesitated. Go ahead. The dwarf motioned her forward. It's just a fucking tree! Kill the tree! Shemet's voice grated her nerves. She needed to know for sure. She couldn't live with the uncertainty. She placed her hands on the tree's trunk. Her hands became hot, then tingled. She took her hands from the tree. Nothing happened. She took a deep breath of relief. Then the tree turned dark grey. Brown, dead leaves fell around her. She turned around. Everyone gazed at the tree with awe. Grimden gave her a look of surmise, then turned his attention to his crew. Now, the rest of ye, he said. Grimden turned, then led the others to another nearby tree. They all left her without a word. Theo looked back at her with a worried look. He looked as though he might say something. Instead, he joined his comrades. She leaned back against the dead tree, then slid into the pile of dead leaves. She sat up as the tree shifted against her weight. A few more dead leaves fell around her. The phoenix has risen. The ether lives in the souls of Heled once again. The season of the Magi unexpectedly returned early, and she was a Diablo. She looked up when a shadow fell over her. It was Rhoda. Rhoda shifted her stance, then put a hand on her hip. I help you get to home, she said. Livien shook her head. No, I can't go home now. They'll kill me if they find out what I am. Then I go with you, wherever you go. No, I want you to stay with your friends. You won't be safe with me. Theo approached. He gazed at her with a somber face. She sensed deep thoughts racing behind his dark eyes. Strange, she expected a look of pity. What was he thinking? He tossed a bag to her lap. We have to go our separate way, he said. Grimden's orders. Grimden's yells from the camp stole everyone's attention. She watched them jog away. Rhoda stopped, looked back at her one last time, then ran to join the others. Livien grabbed the bag, then peeked inside it. Chunks of dried meat and a flask of water. She stood from the dead leaves, then brushed them off her pants. She gazed at the tree she killed with her touch, a symbol of her future. Her dreams of joining the wyverns were now just as dead as the tree before her. Sorrow flooded her chest, tears welled up in her eyes. She fell to her knees. She sobbed. She'd just escaped one prison just to enter another. Maybe she should return home and let them kill her. She'd rather be dead than live like this. She wiped her face with the sleeve of her shirt. Crying wouldn't change anything. She had to focus. She needed to find a solution. Then it came to her. She would go to the Ra Malachi and beg them to take the curse from her. The Arthur healed her leg wound so she could travel fast. With persistent resolve, she headed east, away from Tarathorn, to Lorandal.